there's a lot of fear and shame and ignorance and all this sense of self-worth that's wrapped up in our money. I mean, what I find is people are more willing to talk about their sex lives than their money. The first thing that I think is so important is to understand the source of those fears and to really honor that, to understand what people's backgrounds are, the anxieties that people have around their money. There's always this sense of, am I going to have enough? And then what is enough? The more we can do to eliminate that stigma around talking about money, the better off our families are going to be, the better off we're all going to be. There is no shame to it. Your self-worth is not your money. You know, your values, who you are, what's important to you, your faith, your goals and intentions, the love that you have. Those are the things you want to be able to codify and to share with your family and to make sure that you've done what you can to protect them from the worst case scenario.
Hello, friends. It's me, Donna Bell, your host of To Hum is Human, a podcast where we explore the transformative power of tuning into our intuition to express our passionate purpose. In today's episode, Holistic Financial Planning, the intersection of the emotional and the empirical, we explore a topic that impacts all of us, money, but through a lens we don't often consider. Financial planning isn't just about numbers, spreadsheets, or retirement accounts. It's also about values, emotions, and the stories we carry about security and abundance. I'm joined today by Lou Davis, financial planner and advisor at Davis Financial Group, who brings a rare perspective to this work. With a background spanning the music industry, tech startups, marketing, and now financial planning, Lou blends creativity and strategy to help individuals and families not only grow their wealth, but also align it with their deepest priorities. In this conversation, we'll explore how financial planning can be profoundly human and an even intuitive process when we take the time to connect the empirical with the emotional. Welcome, Lou.
Hi, Donabelle. Great to be here. Thank you.
Now, Lou, your career journey is fascinating. Can you share a little bit about those earlier chapters in your life in music, tech, and marketing? Because I knew you're a musician and you have a very musical family, but I didn't realize there was so much more.
Yeah, it's been a circuitous path to where I am today, for sure. I played in bands and was in the music world when I was a kid in high school. And then in college, I got a fateful call one day. I was at UMass and a friend of mine who had just graduated Berklee College of Music got this job at the Power Station recording studio, which was the preeminent studio of the time. This is 1989. And he had asked me what I was doing that summer. This was the spring of my junior year. And I said, I don't know, I'm going to go paint houses on Martha's Vineyard or something. And he asked me, he said, Lou, are you flexible? And I said, sure. What do you have in mind? He said, can you start work here at Power Station on Tuesday? And I was up here in Massachusetts. So I had little to lose and it sounded like an incredible opportunity. So I sold my car. I dropped out of school. I got out of my lease. And 5 days later, I was sleeping on his floor in Manhattan. And I started work answering the telephone at the power station. And it was a remarkable time. My first day of work, they had these cowboy doors into the salon, into the bathroom. And I was 21 or 22 and I go in there and I slam open like a cowboy and I knock somebody over. And I was very embarrassed and then scared that I was going to lose my job because it was Eric Clapton.
Oh my
That was my
gosh.
first day at work. But he was very sweet and it worked out fine. And I was there answering the phones and being the conduit to the outside world for all the kind of A-list musicians of the time. And I did that for a number of years as I was learning about the music business and meeting everybody in the business. And at the time, I had lots of friends who were in bands and they asked me to start managing them. And I started doing that and introducing them to record labels and getting them showcases and helping them on their tours and working on production. At the same time, I was getting very close with the producers and engineers who were working at the studio. I started to build up a stable of bands and getting record deals and going on tour and kind of balancing that with my work. And then the producers started asking me, you should be managing us. And at the time, there was no such thing as a producer manager. So I was one of the first people to start working in that capacity. And I had this incredible stable of producers. I was managing Grammy winners. I was a 22-year-old kid. I didn't know what I was doing, but I met some great people. My partner in the business eventually became Peter Leeds, who was the manager of Blondie and Roberta Flack and managed them all in their heyday. And he wanted to get back into the business. So we partnered together and built a pretty good company. And it was great. We did some incredible work, made some great records. It was a very, very exciting time. So I did that for about 6 years. And while I was doing that, I was working from home and I was watching the Food Network while I was doing my work. And I fell in love with food. I'd always loved to eat and loved to cook and decided that I wanted to be the artist rather than represent the artist. So I sold the business and went to cooking school. I went to the Culinary Institute and did that for a couple of years. As I was graduating, I was in need of a liver transplant. I had a congenital blood disorder that led to a clot in my liver that necessitated a liver transplant. So I was on the list, waiting and waiting. And while I was waiting, I came back after cooking school to Massachusetts and studied gastronomy and food science and was writing. My dream was never to really be in a kitchen, to be on food TV. That was my dream at the time. And that was cut short a little bit by the need for the transplant. But in my recovery from the transplant, and that was 28 years ago, I started working with my dad, who at that time had a recruiting business. And he was one of the first recruiters to use the internet and to build his business. And so he was getting all of these resumes from people to place. And I came up with this idea for using the internet to build a virtual bench that would allow people to post their job needs and their skill set and allow employers to log on and find contract employees. That then led to another innovation in that at the time, companies were offering bounties to their current employees to fill open positions. They would give them new people a sign-on bonus, and then the referrer would also get a referral bonus. So they had a contingency sales force and contingency recruiter network. And we just took that idea and systematized it and started building out bounty systems. I couldn't even spell web at that time. I had no idea what it was, but I understood an if-then relationship in terms of how these systems work. And we hired an intern from UMass who was the first e-commerce major to work with me. And we built up these mocked up models and used HTML to build the system, the kind of minimally viable product. And then we had the aha moment that was, well, whenever there's demand side scarcity, why don't we utilize this incentivized viral marketing application that we had created to turn the world into a contingency sales team for anybody looking to find something. And so it worked in real estate. It worked in collectibles. Remember, Beanie Babies were really hot then, and everyone was trying to find their missing collectible. But if you're looking for a 57 Chevy or for a CFO for your business, this idea would work. And we raised $15 million of venture capital. My dad, my brother, and I went out and just pitched to venture capitalists, started raising this money. We built a big team. We moved it to New York City and ultimately had 60 people in Manhattan, a big team of engineers and marketers and salespeople and operations people, mostly my dear friends from childhood who I recruited to come work with me. And we rode the wave. It was pretty incredible. So
Wow.
that
I
was,
mean, you were kind of at the head of the wave. It sounds like you were
yeah.
really able to tap into something that was really just emerging, but creating a sense of connecting people. Because as I was listening to your story, like you are such a connector in bringing all of these pieces together to really help people find what they need. Now, Lou, I'm curious what drew you to financial planning? And I know that it's Davis Financial Group, but when did you start thinking that this work could be more about just dollars and cents?
Sure, sure. Well, we were in New York for 9/11, and we had some of our biggest clients were in Tower One. We were actually supposed to be there that day for a meeting that we had canceled the night before while we were at an Afghan restaurant. Just the irony doesn't end. And so ultimately, the bubble burst. We lost big clients, and we decided to get out of the business, and we left. My dad came back up to Massachusetts. I came back up to Massachusetts. I started working in marketing research after a couple different positions in business development. I ran that marketing research company as a VP of sales and marketing, bringing that solution to hospitals and banks, mostly in educational institutions and nonprofits. At the time, my old financial planner had been asking me to join their business. And I said, nah, maybe not me, but you should talk to my dad. And he ultimately did move into that business and start it in 2002. And for the next 7 years had been asking me, you got to come join me in this. This is great work. This is right up your alley. And I just couldn't picture myself in finance. I just never thought of myself in that way. But as I started to understand what exactly it was he was doing, and how he was helping people and what the skill set actually was that was needed to do this work, it became very clear that that would be a good fit for me. And my only regret is that I didn't start it earlier because it's so fulfilling. It really does pull from the right and left side of the brain in terms of the puzzle solving element of the work as much as the kind of therapeutic side of the work in working and building very intimate relationships with people to help them achieve their goals and intentions, whatever they may be. So
Mm,
that was really what it was for me. It was that ability to work with people and really understand what made them tick, what kept them up at night, and to help lift the veil that is put there very purposefully from the financial services industry to create opacity between consumers and their money. There's all this jargon, all the acronyms and the lingo, and really none of us have ever been given any kind of lessons in financial literacy. It's nowhere in any of our public school or in private school curriculum. Nobody's taught to even balance a checkbook anymore, let alone understand how all of these different pieces of our finances are all interconnected, that if you make one change to one of the silos in your financial life, it necessarily has an impact, a ripple effect around all of them. It's an incredibly empowering piece of work to be able to help people understand the mechanisms that are behind it, to lift that veil, to let people know that this stuff is very complex, right? There's a lot to it. There's rules and regulations and intentions and purposes for each of these different elements, but it's not brain surgery. It really, anybody can understand it if it's explained to people in the right way and without all the jargon and acronyms, to help people understand the incredible power that they have around the
mm,
decisions that they're making every day about their money, and to give people that security that helps them understand the likely impact of these decisions before they make them, so they know that they're making the right decisions for them. Because
mm,
there is no right way to get wherever there is, right? There's only the right way for each individual. And so my work is to really understand who folks are and to help them navigate this obscured terrain, and to provide a roadmap and options. There's a lot of different ways to do things, and there's so much religion in this business in terms of the right way to do things. Our religion is agnosticism.
Many of us inherit beliefs about money, right? From our families, our culture, and experiences. How do you see these money stories showing up in the work you do with clients?
Well, I have never met a couple who have come together from the same ideas around money. People have very, very different behaviors. Every family has a different perspective on money and what right and wrong is with money and what to do, what not to do. There's a lot of fear and shame and ignorance and all this sense of self-worth that's wrapped up in our money. I mean, what I find is people are more willing to talk about their sex lives than their money. There's all this kind of societal shame.
Well, money carries a lot of emotional aspects, ideas of abundance and scarcity. But speaking of the fear and emotional blocks that people face around money, how do you help them move through those challenges? Because those are big.
Yeah, they sure are. The first thing that I think is so important is to understand the source of those fears and to really honor that, to understand what people's backgrounds are. What are the anxieties that people have around their money? There's always this sense of, am I going to have enough? And then what is enough? And what does it mean? What do you need your money to do for you? Your money is just a fuel to life, right? It just helps you to live the kind of life that you want to. So let's focus on that. What do you want to be able to do? And then hold that up to the empirical data around what your money is currently doing and how you may be able to make different decisions to be better positioned for you, to help
Mm,
you make decisions that are going to help you get wherever you want to get, and to explain what feels like the inexplicable
right.
about it. So I
Yeah.
really think that it is working at that intersection of the emotional and the empirical, but that by holding up the empirical data to how you feel about money and these different money issues, that data can really help soothe your anxiety around it all by building a model of our clients' financial lives and saying where we start is by if you keep on doing what you're doing today, this is what the next 40 or 50 years looks like, right? What can we do together to make it better? What are some
Mm,
options that you have? How can you spend less and save more, or reposition the savings that you have, or take advantage of the benefits of a financial instrument or combination of instruments or approaches? Here's ways that we could improve on that situation, and always looking from that perspective of what do you need your money to do for you and when,
mm.
because that helps to alleviate fears, to be able to put things into place so that you know that you've got these time bands that are being accounted for, and that you know that in retirement we've got, it's kind of a cliche, but you have three different stages of retirement. You have the go-go years, the slow-go years, and the no-go years. And you need
Mm.
different types of money to do different things that align with those different periods of your life. So,
Well,
help
you
people.
talk about creating value aligned financial plans.
Yeah.
What does that process look like and why is it so important?
Yeah, well, that has relevance in a couple different ways. Certainly, there are ways of aligning your investments with your values in terms of the types of companies that you're investing in, the types of products and portfolios that you may be investing in. There are so many different options now for investing in socially responsible or sustainable ways. And there's a whole different range of ways of doing that, from using ESG, which is environmental, social, and governance based criteria to align your investments with companies that are mitigating their environmental impact, that are being good to their employees, and that are governed by a diverse board of directors with progressive hiring and management policies, to looking to only invest in companies that are well positioned in terms of the changing planet and how our global condition is affecting and will even more affect the global economy going forward in terms of the products and services that are going to be needed to adapt to our changing planet, or to investing in companies that are doing well by doing good, that are investing in people or in local communities or in solar farms or in sustainable agriculture or the like. So there's a whole range of different ways of investing in socially conscious, socially responsible, sustainable ways that, depending on how much somebody has to invest and what they need their money to do for them, could be appropriate for them to utilize in their overall financial planning.
Well, and I think those topics are just so important right now. And I'm glad that you brought it up because I wonder of the percentage of people that you work with, how often are they really tapping into that aspect of their financial planning now? We live in a particularly progressive area, but in general, are people really focused on sort of the global impact of where they're putting their money?
In terms of our clientele, because so much of it is concentrated here in New England, absolutely. About probably around over 90% of our clients are using one or a multiple of those different techniques that I mentioned in their
Mhm.
overall investment plan. So it used to be in order to align your investments with your values, it was typically more expensive. There were more liquidity restrictions, and the results were not nearly as good as a non-socially conscious portfolio. That is no longer the case. Now, especially in the last 20 years that we've been doing this, the range of different investment options that can be aligned with your values have increased dramatically. And in fact, have been outperforming in many ways and in many times those more traditional portfolios that may be heavy in carbon exposure, companies that are making more than 50% of their revenue from carbon negative efforts, or in munitions or in the sin stocks, so to speak. It's been a boon for everybody, for the planet, certainly, for
Mhm.
our society in general. You're voting with your dollars in terms of promoting your values. It used to be
Exactly.
that it was more exclusionary, like, I don't want to invest in that. I don't want to invest in these things. Now we're able to be much more promotional by investing in companies that are more overtly moving our society forward in the ways
Mm.
that align with people's values. So it's been incredible. And stock market has certainly cooperated in those endeavors. And things are a little different now than they were a year or two ago, certainly. And so that
Yes.
we're starting to feel that and to understand that. But
Mm.
it's not going to stop the change in our society and the change in the planet. So it's still a good bet from our perspective.
So let's go back to the data because
Yeah.
financial planning can feel really intimidating or overly technical for many people. How do you help clients feel empowered and clear rather than overwhelmed?
Yeah. Well, it's a combination of using software. So we use a very comprehensive planning tool called eMoney. It's a very robust financial planning software that allows me to build an incredibly granular picture of each of our clients' lives that lists everything that's coming into their household, what's going out, where is it going, what's happening to it when it gets there, and how that looks year after year after year. It uses real time data in terms of the data aggregation capabilities. So we know exactly at any given point in time the culmination of all of our clients' financial activity, right? In terms of all of their old 401ks or IRAs that are floating out there, what's happening with the bank accounts, what's happening with their insurance policies, what's happening in terms of inflows from income of different sources, what they're paying in taxes each year. And then it looks out into the future to be able to say, based on conservative projections about growth based on history, how are things performing over time based on capturing all that data and having it all work together and talk to each other? And that knowledge is such power to people. Most people have no idea how they're positioned or what's going to happen in the future. That whole idea of scarcity and do I have enough? Am I going to have enough to live? Is so pressing on people's nerves. And without doing this work, it's really, really hard to be able to have that context. That context can be so comforting, that the amount of relief that provides is so huge. And it may not necessarily be good news. It may be, oh boy, looks like based on all this information and how you're saving, that you aren't going to be able to retire at 65. You're going to have to work longer. Totally. Just an example. What can we do to make that better? Here are opportunities to improve on that. And just having that kind of insight and that kind of information can help people sleep. It can really help people know what they have to do in order to achieve their goals and objectives for the future. And that's transformative for folks and
Absolutely.
really rewarding to me to be able to help people just feel good about where they're at and where they're heading. 99% of us. So we just, well, that sounds good. Let's do that. That seems to make sense without understanding interdependencies of these different elements of our finances and what the
Mm,
likely outcomes will be based on those decisions.
yeah. And as a visual person, I'm hoping also too that you have a lot of graphs and charts that people can actually
No,
see for those who like to see the pie and the
it's
slice
true.
of the pie and such.
Well, absolutely. We recognize and honor the fact that people really need that information presented in those three ways. Some people love to be talked through it. Some people need to read it. Some people need to see the numbers. And some
Mhm,
people need to see the charts, see the graphs. We honor all of that in the work that we do. The software helps to do that. The reports that we use help people understand it in any way that's helpful to them. We really are teachers more than anything. As a teacher, the best teachers are ones who really get you and get how you learn and how you need information presented. And
mhm.
we
And
really work
engage
very
you
hard.
in the process.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
definitely. Well, Lou, what is your definition of intuition and how do you see it fitting into the planning process, both for you as a guide or teacher and for your clients as decision makers?
Sure. Intuition. I look at it through the lens of empathy. The intuition comes after really creating a space for people to feel comfortable and to be able to talk about all the fears that they have about money and all the stigma, and to be able to create a safe space, a judgment free zone to be able to talk about all the decisions that they've made up to date and what they're looking for in the future and what they want to achieve. The intuition is really about, once I have an understanding of who people are and what makes them tick, I rely on that relationship to be able to make recommendations and suggestions and present them in ways that I think people will be able to hear and that will resonate with them. They hate the idea of having hundreds of thousands of debt hanging over their heads. And so I can show that empirical calculus, so to speak, and help people make better decisions. And if that still isn't convincing enough, it's important to really honor that fear and to be able to say, I get it.
Well, Lou, in addition to family planning, you've been deeply involved with music throughout your life. So I'm wondering, how does creativity play a role in the way that you think about planning and problem solving? Because I feel like that, in essence, is also part of the play here.
Yeah, sure. There are tons of opportunities to be creative in this work. I work with a range of types of clients. So I have clients who have tens of millions of dollars, and the problem set that we're dealing with is very sophisticated and there's lots of different moving people. And then I work with folks who have negative net worth and we're a different set of problems. Throughout that whole paradigm of the different kinds of decisions that are based on the level of wealth that you have, there's always ways of being creative and trying to find new tools, new instruments, new methods of solving these problems or taking advantage of opportunities. Risk mitigation is the foundation of financial planning. There's a financial planning pyramid, and protection is at the bottom because you need to protect what you have and guard against worst case situations. All of these things are all happening on top of the basic. Do I have enough money this week to be able to put food on the table and go to a movie or whatever? All these things have to be incorporated into the planning. So there's lots of room for creativity. We really see our work as being that of a primary care provider. And that's how we built our business structure. And that's how we operate. We want to be on speed dial for people, to be there as a partner to them, to be able to answer or help them make decisions around anything that's even tangentially related to their finances. I can't tell you how many cars I've helped people buy, and and how do you finance it? How do you, yeah, and working with people's kids, helping to set them up, and also working in a multi-generational way with people's parents and grandparents and working on big family estates. And there's a lot of times where we are um, helping families prepare for wealth transitions and legacy planning, and not just preparing the money for the kids, so to speak, but also preparing the kids for the money. Huge
Mm.
responsibilities that we're potentially leaving to our children. And I love working with kids. I have a lot of clients that are in their early 20s that are just starting out in their adult financial journey, and I feel so honored to be able to work with them and give them some pointers and help them understand in a really foundational way how to create more stability.
Mm.
It's the way I can make up for all the terrible decisions that I made when I was a kid.
Right. Right. We all did probably because we didn't have
Of
the
course.
education back then regarding all of
Yeah.
this. But
Yeah.
what conversations do you wish more families would have around money and values before they ever sit down with a financial planner?
I can't emphasize how important it is to have basic estate planning documentation in place. And I can't tell you how many clients come to me without any of that work done. It's really scary to take that even first step of calling an estate planning lawyer and saying, I need a will, I need a healthcare proxy, I need a durable power of attorney. But that I see that as such an incredible act of love for your family to be able to take that first step and do that. It's like dealing with the IRS. It's always better to know. It's always better to make that phone call and say, okay, what am I in for? What do we have to do to make this right? And having those open conversations with your kids about, this is what we have. This is what our intentions are. This is what we hope for you. These are our hopes. And here are the people to go to in case we aren't able to talk to. This is who we've established as our healthcare proxy. So if we ever get hurt and we can't make decisions for ourselves, this is the person who we've given that authority to. This is the person that you can go to get that information and to get that help. And to be able to have that documented officially so that there's no confusion is an incredible benefit to your family and an amazing relief once you get it done to do it. And people are so resistant to doing it. And then having those conversations are hard. To be able to talk about money to your kids.
Mm.
The more we can do to eliminate that stigma around talking about money, the better off our families are going to be, the better off we're all going to be. There is no shame to it. Your self-worth is not your money. Your values, who you are, what's important to you, your faith, your goals and intentions, the love that you have. Those are the things you want to be able to codify and to share with your family, and to make sure that you've done what you can to protect them from the worst case scenario.
Mm.
And that may not be financial. It may just be spiritual in how you do that. But in opening
Yeah.
up those channels is really, really powerful and empowers your kids to be able to make better decisions going forward. It's a
Mm.
great gift to give them.
Absolutely. Now,
Yeah.
for someone listening who may feel stuck or disconnected from their
Yeah.
finances, what's one small step they can take today to begin building a more conscious and empowered relationship with money?
And inventory is great. Building your own kind of personal financial statement is really, really powerful. Just listing everything you have, if you can do it in a secure way that is encrypted, if that's probably important, but that by creating that inventory, that can be really powerful. And certainly trusting the access to that to one other person who you trust is really important too. As much as I hate to say it because it's such a drag, knowing what you actually spend every year. I'm not talking about a budget. This is not prescriptive. It is just descriptive. Where is your money going? What are these decisions that you're making every single day unconsciously, right? We're just buying coffee or doing things to have a handle on exactly what you're paying for groceries every year, and what you're paying for gas and for utilities and for rent and for discretionary spending. It is so powerful to be able to Just list it out to keep that running total, because that helps you make informed decisions, that you know that I'm making this decision to buy this discretionary item, and I know that the trade-off for that is worthwhile to me. I'm making a lifestyle decision to do this. This is not a need. This is not a necessity. It's not a doctor's visit, not utilities or whatever. I'm making this consciously because it's really important to me to do
Mm,
this, even though I could be making other decisions that could benefit me in a different way, maybe later in life, to be able to delay that gratification. Just that act allows you to make better decisions, to be more thoughtful and mindful in what you're spending your money on. And when you are making those decisions that are lifestyle driven, you can enjoy them more. I've thought through this. I'm buying this fishing pole because it's going to give me a lot of joy, and it's going to, whatever it is. I'm buying a new guitar, and the value that it's going to provide me is more so than a contribution to my Roth IRA.
mm, right, right.
But it takes a while to get there, and it's not natural. So,
One small step, an intention to really get more informed about where your money is going. So, Lou,
yeah.
where can folks find you and where you're up to?
So our website is davisfinancialgroup.com. We've got a lot of information up there. We write a number of different newsletters and blogs. We're in the middle of writing a book right now that will be published in hopefully a month or two. It's being edited right now. We work with people from all areas of the country, areas of different levels of wealth. We're financial planners, and it's a combination of all the different elements of our finances and incorporating that into creating an understandable and actionable plan about how
Mm.
you can make your life better and make things easier. And I'm on LinkedIn, Lou Davis on LinkedIn and on Facebook, and feel free to reach out anytime. And we love our clients.
You've shown us that financial planning isn't just about wealth, it's about alignment, it's about clarity and the stories we choose to create with our resources. And I'm sure listeners will have so much to think about after hearing our conversation. So, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your hearts and your insight with us today.
Thank you, Donna Bell. It's been a pleasure. Love doing this. So.
Thanks for being here. I hope something from today's conversation stayed with you or gave you a new way to look at things. That awareness, that pause, that's where things start to shift. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave a review, or share it with someone who might need it. You can learn more about my work and what's coming up at sonorous.light.com, and you can follow me on Instagram at @tohumishuman. Until next time, keep humming.